Welcome to this week's episode of Sojourner, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
Welcome back to the ongoing series, How Spaces Define Masculinity, a Black and Black-Biracial Men's Initiative. My name is Carol Jean Matthews-Shifflett, and I am the CEO of the Sojourner Group. I'd like to start by thanking my sponsors, the Utah Jazz, Planned Parenthood Association of Utah, Pacific Island Knowledge to Action Resource, PCAR, the Utah Coalition Against Sexual Assault, UCASA, and Enlightened Productions. So let's start by welcoming three young men who happen to be brothers, brave men for standing up to do this. Today we have Zion Baker.
Hi, I'm
Raise your
Zion.
hand. There's Zion. We have Rayshawn Baker.
Hi.
And we have Dayshawn Baker.
Hi.
And before I forget, okay, Dayshawn and Rayshawn,
Yes.
raise your hand. Which one's the oldest? Dayshawn is the oldest.
Rayshawn's the oldest.
Rayshawn's
Raise your hand.
By 2 minutes.
By 2 minutes. Okay, that's a long time. 2 minutes. All right, thank you all. So what I want you to do is I want you to introduce yourselves. Take 1 to 2 minutes to just give us a little background about who you are, how old you are, where you grew up, and how did you grow up in the home? Who was with you in your home when you were growing up? Shall we start with the youngest?
Oh my.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so my name is Deshaun Baker. I'm 15 years old. I was born in Fairfield, California. I don't even remember a lot, but it was kind of normal. We were like leasing some houses over there, but other than that, it was pretty good. Then when we got to like age, Rich and I were 5 years old. Zion was like 6 or 7, and then that's when we moved here, and we've just been here ever since. Both my parents are in the house. They've been helping us along the way. They've been pushing us, striving us to do better than what we're doing right now, and yeah.
Here being where? Salt Lake City, Utah?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So next, we'll go with Rayshawn.
So I do actually remember a lot about where we grew up. So we were born in Fairfield, and I do remember
California, right?
Colorful?
California.
Oh, California. Right? Yes.
Okay.
We were born in Fairfield, California, and I do remember we used to stay in this apartment, and there was a store right across from us. Since we were young, we weren't allowed to really go outside when we played at the apartment. It was mostly around the front door. A little later on, we moved to a house which had a garden in the back, and we would ride our bikes down the street, and we would also play in the back. Blue Jays used to come sit on the fence, so it was really nice. We were too young to really know about America and the way it's been at that age, but I have a sense that it was before things really started being noticed about Black people.
Okay. Okay. All right. Is that it? Is that it for now?
Yes.
Okay. And then we'll move on to Zion Baker, the oldest.
So yes, we were born in Fairfield, California. We lived there till like I was about 7, they were about 5, and moved to Utah, and we've lived here ever since then for almost let's see, I'm 17 now, so well I was closer to 8, but so it was about 9 years we've been here, and when we lived in California, we had an apartment at first, and then we leased a house. It was in this kind of court circle, and it had a backyard and stuff, and a few trees in the back, and birds did come from time to time. Um, but yeah, our childhood is pretty simple. We did normal kid stuff, ran around the house when we weren't supposed to sometimes. all outside playing, riding bikes, things like that. Uh, but yeah, but now we live here. I go to West High. I'm going to become a senior this year, and I'm 17.
Yay, congratulations. So you spent most of your childhood, well, half and half, part in
Yeah.
California and part here. But the younger ones, most of your years here in the state of Utah.
Hmm.
Okay, all right. So let me just ask real quick, how was that for you, Zion, since you're the oldest and you remember the most? How was that change?
Um, I remember at first, it kind of felt like, you know, you felt when you were a little kid when you like would go somewhere else and it kind of felt like a vacation type of thing, like everything looks new and things like that. Like that was what it felt like. But then when we started to live here, um, I got a little bit homesick. Definitely, um, memories of California would flash through my head when from time to time, like with our old elementary school, K.I. Jones. I still remember very vividly. There was one time we were walking outside to go do PE or something, and I remember that was the first time my dad ever let me get like a design in my haircut, and it was like a really big star. I don't remember why I got the star, but I remember walking to the line, and then like kids were looking, and they're like, "Oh, wow!" But yeah, things like that. But after that, it was pretty easy to acclimate. I mean, I was still pretty young, so I didn't really have too many like really good friends. I do remember I had uh, two good friends, Mark and Aiden. Mark was from my elementary school. Aiden was from my elementary school, but we also hung out at his house sometimes. And and then when we came here, I became friends with a guy named Ari, who also goes to my high school, but kind of drifted apart a little bit. Um, But other than that, it was a pretty easy transition. Um,
So you didn't feel a sense of culture shock at all? Were you too young, you think, to, I think Rayshawn mentioned something like that. Did you feel a little sense of culture shock or were you fine?
no, yeah, there wasn't really much of a culture shock. I think culture shock probably is more drastic when I don't know. I feel like it would be more drastic if I was like a teenager and I'd come from California rather than a kid because I'm pretty sure just how we acted as kids was still basically the same way we acted when we went to the elementary schools here, so it wasn't really much of a difference besides just where we were.
Yeah, good. Rayshawn, you said you had a little memory. What about you? How was it when you came here? Did you feel any different or were you too young or how did you feel?
Felt cold. I don't like the snow.
Oh
I
yeah,
do
we did.
remember
You
that,
came to California.
yeah, I do remember that we had never seen snow before we came here because at that time it was always warm and it rained a lot. So the ice was a shock. There weren't too many black people around. Like in my kindergarten class here in Utah, I was the only black kid, and I had a few more when I lived in California. And it's funny because here in Utah, you can count most of the kids in your school, in elementary school and in middle school, on maybe one hand or two hands.
Mhm.
But it's not that way in California. I do remember that in California there were two playgrounds and they were separated, but the kids used to look over and there were a bunch of black people, Hispanics, and a really good mix of people. But here it's not the same. I feel like since we've moved here, it's grown more diverse, but back then it wasn't.
Okay. And did you feel uncomfortable, comfortable, or you didn't feel anything at all at the time?
Uncomfortable.
Notice you were uncomfortable. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Deshaun, do you have anything to say about that? Or since you said you don't have as much of a memory?
Uh, Other than yeah, we were there at our school in Fairfield, California, called K.I. Jones. That's where we would do stuff. And actually, our school had smart boards for a long time, and then when we came here, they didn't have smart boards, so they had to like wait like a year or two to get smart boards. It was kind of weird. So
Yeah, I do remember that. That was weird for me to see. It's weird that like especially with things like card readers or whatever. Like a lot, it seems like Utah kind of lags behind in certain things like that, where most of the other places in the country will start using it, and then Utah will come in a few years later. Uh,
And
so yeah, that was a little weird not seeing something I'd seen before in California.
what did you say again that it was called?
smart board.
Smartboard, just the like one of the earlier generations of the smartboard. And I remember having had one when I was in like first grade and second grade when I was well going into second grade before we came here. I
Uh-huh.
remember using those, and then when I came here, they didn't have them, and I was a little confused at first. Uh, I was like, huh, because never really used the whiteboard all that much.
Okay. Okay. I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
So this whole webinar is about masculinity, and I'm just going to say slash manhood because you're still young and still growing into your masculinity. I want to know your personal definition of what it means to be a man or what masculinity means.
Uh,
Let's,
Going to,
you know what? Let's start with Rayshawn this time. How about that? What?
So for me, the definition of masculinity and being a man is you got to be a tough guy, maybe kind of big. You got to be able to provide for your family, work on all sorts of things, fix things, step up to the plate more than it should be. It should be like a 50-50, but sometimes a man is expected to do a lot more.
Okay. Okay. All right. Um, let's go ahead and go to Zion.
okay. Yeah, there's a bit of that in there. Not essentially like to be big, but that usually is a sign of a more alpha kind of male person, which is what men really kind of aspire to be usually is a more alpha kind of guy where people respect you, like you kind of have an air about you when you walk into a room where um and yes, that is true that being a man, to me, the most common definition is definitely a person who will provide for their partner and their family, and usually is um, supposed to be like the breadwinner of the family culturally, and is supposed to be able to handle himself. And newly, I've been looking into what that's supposed to mean and like looking at videos and things like that and how people define it. And also, it seems like another aspect of being a man is also having purpose seems to really attract people like men with the drive or kind of purpose and not so kind of I don't know what I'm doing kind of thing. Like they're not so listless. Like they feel like someone can look at them and feel like they know where they're going. That kind of thing also seems to show more of a manly quality.
So do you buy into the definitions that you are researching, or are you determining for yourself? Because you said you've been researching lately. So are you buying into those definitions, or what are you thinking?
Um, Not buying into them, but seeing definitely where it makes sense. And I don't try to mold myself to that, but I definitely try to be more conscious of, yes, that does make sense that, let's say just some prospective woman looking for a husband, she doesn't want a guy who still doesn't know what he's doing with his life or hasn't really gotten himself together and doesn't really know who he is yet. So that kind of thing, I'm definitely doing more of paying attention to how I am and who I am, kind of thing. But uh, no, not exactly buying into it, but definitely taking bits and pieces here and there where it makes sense, not necessarily changing.
Okay. Deshaun, um, what is
um,
your definition, your personal definition of masculinity?
mm, my personal definition of masculinity is well, besides like being like physically big and stuff, I wouldn't have like a set definition of it. Just like a guy who can take care of people. He's like caring, respectful. He's responsible, knows what he's doing. He doesn't take anything for granted. He's grateful for what he has, and like not like it's not like the physical version of masculinity, but like mentally and stuff. I don't know.
Okay, so all three of you did say strong, which I thought was very interesting, that to be masculine you have to be strong. Anybody want to piggyback on that? Like, why do you think you have to be strong to be masculine?
I think it goes back to like World War I and II days where, the women weren't allowed to like fight. They could help in like the factories and stuff, but they weren't allowed to go on the battlefield. So it's like that tough guy persona, the no cry thing. You got to be tough to, go into the military, all of that, a
Okay.
little stigma.
Okay. Anybody else want to touch on that?
I feel like the strong thing really just comes from historically
Yeah.
and also just what culturally it seems like across most um, cultures, a man is supposed to be a person who is almost leader-like in a way, like not not supposed to be a follower, but you're definitely supposed to be the person who is the head and able to lead people in the right direction. And another thing I've noticed also in my research is that like uh, you have to take accountability for you're supposed to take accountability for a lot of the things that happen to you or that are a result of certain things that happen to you, and it seems to be more of a you kind of like shoulder everything that happens, not like nothing can be you can't really put any real like blame on much circumstance. Like sure that can definitely be a factor, but it's more okay, this happened to me, I'll accept it and I'll figure out how to make a better situation out of it or how to come out better or learn from anything that happened. So.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to move on to the next question, and we'll start with you, Deshawn. What who most influenced your idea of manhood or masculinity? Was it your father, your mother, your grandparents, your uncle, neighborhood? Who did that?
It was
We'll start.
mostly my dad because we never really even saw our grandpa, and I only seen him when I was like maybe four to three, four, five something. So I barely even know the guy. So I got most of it from my dad because he's been in my life all of my 15 years, and he's taught me, molded me. He's shown me right from wrong. He's leading me on the right path to a better future so that I don't end up like what he was doing when he was my age, so I can be like a better version of him.
Did he tell you that he wants that? He doesn't want you to be like him when he was a kid?
Yes.
Okay, we won't go into that right now. What about you, Rayshawn?
I would have to say it's my dad, but also, um, all of our uncles, one of our uncles was a colonel in the Air Force. Another of our uncles designs buildings. Our dad also, he like built bridges. He was a chef. He was part of a company. So really that and the men that were around me influences my idea of what a man should be.
Okay, all right, all right. Thank you. That's it. That's it.
Yes.
Okay, let's go ahead and go to Zion.
Yeah, just to clear up something, so we do know one of our grandfathers, the one who lives in California, but we still don't visit a lot. The one we really don't know that much is the one who lives in Louisiana, which we haven't visited since we were babies. But
Okay.
yeah, most of what I think masculinity is definitely comes from how I've seen my dad act, but also just subliminally, I know it's from culture, like in TV shows or how I see people act outside, and also a little bit from school because I do realize that a lot more guys that are either black or just my age right now are going through the whole like bad boy phase kind of thing. Like, and I can tell when some of them definitely are probably like, this is who I am, and other ones they're acting to fit in. But I can definitely tell that they're really just like nice people, and they're not really like that kind of person. So, um, but yeah, definitely my masculinity as an image definitely comes from mostly my dad and in showing that a man is supposed to have integrity, honesty, uh, you know, not be, not try to be confrontational. Like you're a person who will help others, things like that. Like you're not supposed to be all macho all the time, but you're also not, um, you're also not like too emotional. Like there's sometimes, yeah, those show emotion, but it's not usually that much. And it's
So,
more for the whole idea of being strong and being kind of a rock for your family or certain people in your circle.
so strong in leadership, not necessarily strong in muscle or you know, walking around looking like I'm strong because I do this or I act this way. So is it in leadership?
There's, yeah, I feel like more of the man kind of thing is, it's kind of 50-50 behavior and somewhat looks, but yes, being a man does have to do with fitness and stuff, but it kind of lags as you get older. Like as a younger guy, people definitely expect you to be more fit and like more muscular, and I do understand that that makes sense. Just like how as a teenager, you definitely you're looking up to like your dad and whatever, and how you feel like he's so strong or whatever. So you're definitely going to try and emulate that. And because I've started to be working out a lot more regularly now, um, for that reason of just like the image of a man kind of thing, but also because of coronavirus, I realized that it would definitely be bad if like I wasn't that active and I came back out into the world. So trying to stay active to have some kind of normalcy. But yeah, definitely I would say that fitness definitely does play a role, but it shouldn't be everything. There's definitely um, behavior aspects to it too.
So let me ask that of Deshaun and Rayshawn. Do you believe that this masculinity is associated with physical or with leadership or both?
It's a little bit of both, even though, yeah, like what Zion Brigham said back then, it was a stereotype that a masculine man had to be buff and strong and stuff. But yeah, it's a little bit of both worlds in uh the physical standpoint and the non-physical standpoint.
Okay, okay. And
I
and
do agree that it's physical and mental. Um,
leadership, that
yes.
was
Yes.
that was the other one. Okay.
Uh, so, Caesar was, a great man, the Roman Empire, all of that. That was leadership more so than him being masculine. But then there's like, guys like Mike Tyson, champions, dole out big punches. And that's also part of it.
Stay tuned for the next episode on how spaces define masculinity, a black and black biracial men's initiative.